here is a hype video played before the NYPD's latest 2023 gathering, where they're, I don't know, coming up with ways to stop and frisk. It's a little depressing, but you'll recognize the voice.
State of the NYPD.
Cool. Let's see how they view themselves.
We are the NYPD.
Anyway, that is a lot of quick cuts there. It looks like it was, directed by Baz Luhrmann. But that is depressing that James Earl Jones took that paycheck.
So 90-year-old James Earl Jones, I guess, just wanted to secure the bag from the boys in blue.
Sure they didn't use like AI to recreate his voice.
Perhaps, but that kind of reminded me of the Dan Crenshaw political ad.
Special ops freshman.
In other words, fascist culture.
Yeah, there you go.
I think it was a little Darth Vader-y. It was a little Darth Vader-y, so I'm going to let it pass.
For sure.
I mean, Darth Vader-y, yes, I would say that there's some of that as well. That's why they brought him in.
Those cops who died of COVID in that montage, surely appreciate the, having the emperor's right hand read off their obituary. Right,
and also like all the fentanyl touching.
I want to tack on to this something that really pissed me off yesterday. Matt Iglesias tweeted, there's a bunch of people talking about fare evasion. A bunch of rich bloggers, basically, and some who I respect. Like, I think Chris Hayes' work is good, but like I think people just don't fucking understand what they're talking about when you just idly say. Here's what Matt Iglesias said: that should include. This is in a thread, but going after minor but easy to detect crimes like fare evasion, in part because that lets you check people for more serious offenses like carrying illegal guns or outstanding warrants. And there are other people being like, I think people should just pay if they can, but I see all these other people that actually I think they actually could be paying, but they aren't paying. And what you're doing, I mean, there's an article in New York Post recently of guys hired by Adams to crack down on fare evasion, beating the shit out of a guy. Like, this is what you're licensing in this idle like speculation of like, oh yeah, it's actually bad. These hipsters that are probably the people who criticize me on Twitter politically, like they should be actually paying the fare, and it's good for social contract. If people aren't paying the fare more regularly, that's probably because the fare is too high and it needs to be lowered. And I think that's the end of the story. And it really like upsets me that people think it's just like.
By the way, that's the prerequisite to them trying to raise the fare like 25 cents.
And like this idea that it's just ultra leftists trying to stake out the farthest, most ultra radical position, and not people that don't want to see cops beat the shit out of their friends because they decided they're saving fare that day. Because guess what? I don't think Matt Iglesias or any of these people know what it's like to actually like feel what fare costs, even if it's just a little bit under $3. You do that every single day, back and forth. That's going to add up. So you're going to feel like maybe you don't know anybody who doesn't feel that, who knows like, okay, I can actually just jump this stop and I'm going to save $2.75. And if I do that 5 times, that's a meal. And like people that don't understand that shouldn't be talking about it. And I don't understand, like, especially like it really upset me with that Hayes did it, because I think Hayes is someone whose work, like, he should be more sensitive to that, and it shouldn't be this idle like thing like, oh, maybe we should have the Radiohead model where if you can pay, you should pay. But like that's just not
nonsense
applicable.
Managerial liberalism, and it's also it's a complete fiction. Where's their evidence for the fact that this is the hipsters criticizing me on Twitter?
It's them looking at the people that they see jumping the fare lines, which I don't even believe these people take the train.
Yeah.
Suburban crime cucks reinventing broken windows policing because they just moved to New York for a job because, let's be honest, wherever they're from in the middle of the country has had their opportunities exported to either a foreign country or, concentrated into a handful of cities in New York. And now, like, they're just not used to seeing people do bad things and not be punished. So when they see someone jumping the turnstiles after they paid, I feel like there's a level of this that has to also be about the same kind of, envy, jealousy, sour grapes, call what you want, that has people saying that, like, we can't forgive student debt because I already paid mine. Some people literally pay the fare, see somebody jump the turnstile turnstile and think to themselves, I'm being the fool for paying. You are. Yeah, you are. But you know, ultimately,
the fare should be much lower, if not free, in this city, right? And so like that is where the conversation should be oriented, as opposed to kind of finger wagging hall monitor style politics for people that are jumping turnstiles. And they have if they actually wanted to speak to people who are being prosecuted, and just to bring it back to the NYPD, that's what they're doing. They're standing at the 14th Street station and making sure that no one's jumping turnstiles, as opposed to doing whatever that action montage indicated. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, also it's like sort of, if you actually take the train regularly, you pretty much get a really good idea of what like regular people, like the public's view on fare evasion is. They don't care about it. They don't think about it. And if they see someone getting ticketed for it, their thought is probably, you got to be more careful next time.
Yeah.
Because you know that when someone opens the emergency door, like to let a stroller through, everyone who is about to pay, whether they're 13 years old or 89 years old, they walk right through that fucking door because they know that's the easiest way to get away with it.
Raise your hand. Who's done it?
I also, especially after
always leave through the door. That's
that too. I don't care if it beeps, bitch.
Especially after I noticed in some of the newer subway stations, like in the Upper East Side Q stops, there's like a sign that's like, please don't hold the emergency exit door open for too long. I literally just walk in. I'm just like, whoop! Like that thing is gonna have some hang time. So get inside. I'm always.
We are not the people that actually primarily do this. This is just like a mode of convenience. We would be the liberals that Iglesias is upset about. The reality is what Matt is saying, is that fare evasion, it's a funnel to criminalizing poor people. I have a friend that used to work in the DA's office who became incredibly disenchanted because what he said to me was that everything I deal with on an afternoon is just fair turnstile jumpers. Yeah. Turnstile
broken
jumpers,
windows shit. Like,
that's what this is.
It's also just like incorrect to pretend like that's why the MTA is garbage. Yes. Like some people try to do that to pretend like, oh no, that's why the MTA doesn't run on time. That's why the tracks are always on fire. That's why, X, Y, Z. That has nothing to do with it. I've been riding the MTA for about like 30, 25 years now. It certainly has always been poorly managed and poorly run as a result of the money being funneled to the highest members of the MTA and, kickbacks, et cetera, et cetera. For the same reason all of our infrastructure is poorly funded. This just happens to be the one infrastructure that we're also expected to pay for every time we use, as opposed to like toll roads, obviously, which we don't often have like in cities. But that's all it is. It's people who moved to the city, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, are just learning how to operate the subway, feeling sour grapes that like, oh my gosh, people are stealing from the MTA. I can't believe it.
I think we got to put up a social contract. It's bad if you can. God,
people are gonna be mad. Go back to Wisconsin. Go back. When I had a monthly pass, you gotta drive everywhere.
When I had a monthly pass, I would get so happy when I was getting off the train and someone would ask for the swipe, to the point where sometimes I'd be like, when I was leaving, I'd be like, anyone need a swipe? Like anyone, like just anything to make sure that the MTA isn't getting paid more. Because you know how many times I've been in a station thinking like, how much could like a fucking like renting a power washer just for one day cost for them to just like spray down the fucking dirty ass stations?
They are enforcement.
They spend nothing on the upkeep of this shit. They spend nothing on it.
Yeah.
I also have to point out just how often those MTA machine cards are not working. Like when you go down to like go on the train and you need to refill your card, it's like they oftentimes just do not function. They will be like, oh, we don't take cash today. Yep. We don't have any change today. Single rides only.
Cashless, things like that are meant to make sure that homeless people are kept out of certain spaces.
It would be one thing if it were purposely cashless, which is what they're trying to do, but these are just broken half the time. Every machine in a station will just be. Yeah.
Maybe they choose not to like actually prioritize that crap because they'd rather have credit card users coming through.
Well, they're moving off of the Metro cards, but this is from the New York Post. This is what it drives me crazy that people just have idle like conversations that are just informed by their sense of grievance that a hipster that's slightly to the left of them might skip a fare. This is what's actually happening. This is December 29, 2022, not even a month ago. Private guards hired by New York Post. Private guards hired by MTA arrested for NYC subway beatdown. 3 unarmed private security guards contracted by the MTA more money that could just have been spent on lowering the fares. And keep the subway safe were arrested after allegedly beating a 20-year-old strap hanger. It's their language for people who take the subway. At the 14th Street Union Square subway station on Wednesday, police said. The guards, employees of a firm launched by a top aide of Mayor Eric Adams, got into the tussle after they told the Long Island man he could not exit the station through an emergency gate. So he'd already gotten in and presumably paid, maybe, I don't know, but he wanted to leave through the gate like we're all talking about. We always do. And they said they couldn't. They proceeded to beat the crap out of him. Officials claim the guards serve not only to prevent riders from using open gates to evade the fare, but also to stop criminals from entering the subway altogether. This is what Matt Iglesias wanted. Overwhelmingly, the criminals are fare evaders. So if we do a decent job of discouraging fare evasion and stopping people who are engaged in it, we're going to catch a lot of criminals. MTA CEO Janel Lieber said in October. And these people are all lunatics that want the cops to beat the shit out of you, and they're all supported by the people that are upset about fare evasion.
You know, I never even thought about the usage until you brought it up, of the term strap hanger.
Yeah.
Like, what a weird, like, in any other scenario, I think, like, you would call them what, like a customer or something, which would get people angrier if you heard that someone was getting,
rider.
It's very weird term. Yeah. It sounds like, it sounds like someone who did something wrong.
Post framing? Is that the post framing?
New York Post, yeah.
Yeah, it's
because they hate people that take the train.
Well, yeah, right, exactly. If you have a backpack on, you have one strap on. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean they do things like look. The New York Post previously did an article on highlighting a Instagram account that was exposing basically homeless people on the subway system and being like, look at these crazy strap hangers. So like, you know, it's dehumanizing.
Well, we have Mayor New York Post. That's who Eric Adams is. That's literally, look at his ideology and then just like look at the crime beat in the Post, and it's symmetrical.